Thanks for staying with us. The House of Representatives has expressed concern over the ongoing cash crunch in commercial banks across the country. According to the lawmakers, the Central Bank of Nigeria has to step up to address the situation, which they say has disrupted economic activities and improved significant hardship on citizens. The call by the House of Reps is coming on the heels of the directive by Vice President Kashim Shettima to the CBN as well as commercial banks in the country to swiftly resolve issues of cash scarcity and arbitrary charges by point of sale POS operators. In December 2023, the CBN issued a directive mandating deposit money banks to prioritize efficient cash disbursement to customers both over the counter and through the automated teller machines, this to enhance currency circulation. Well, let's bring on board now to join this conversation CEO, Center for the Promotion of Private Enterprise, Dr. Moda Yusuf. He joins us via Zoom. Thanks a lot, Dr. Yusuf, for joining in. Well, for the Central Bank of Nigeria, and there's been a directive even enjoining bank customers to report erring banks to the CBN. As far as the Apex Bank is concerned, this is an artificial scarcity. How are you reading the situation on ground?
Well, the banks can only give what they have. As we speak, I mean, the latest data we have concerning with respect to currency in circulation was for October. And the total currency in circulation was 4.5 trillion naira. Currency outside the banks, out of this, is about 4.3 trillion naira. So over 95% of the total currency in circulation is outside the banking system. And if you look at the data going back maybe 3, 4, 5 months up to January, there has not been any significant drop in the amount of currency in circulation. So I think what has happened is that quite a number of people that used to use online transactions and all of that, maybe for some reasons, they have decided now to be using cash. I'm saying that because in the last few months, we have seen quite a number of disruptions, a number of downtimes with respect to the online payment systems. Mm-hmm. And these online payment systems, thrives on confidence. If there's any issue that leads to loss of confidence, many people may decide to continue now to go back to the use of cash. So that is a possibility. That because of the issue that had happened, especially with some major banks, with respect to the failure of their online systems, a lot of people decided to now go back to using, bank transactions, particularly in the informal sector of the economy and maybe also in the rural areas. Because if you lose confidence, then you decide to be holding all your money in cash. So that is one possibility. The other possibility is that we have a growth of POS operators. Right now, we have over 3 million POS operators. And the POS operators, rather than wait for cash to come to them, they go around the retail outlets. They go to supermarkets, they go to filling stations and all of that. And they are mopping up cash. So rather than some of this cash being deposited in the banks, the POS operators mop it up for their own business, and they use it to do their POS transaction. And they're getting a lot of patronage because of the convenience that they provide. Rather than go to the bank to go and queue for 30 minutes, 1 hour because you need cash, you go to the POS that is just next door, you pay maybe 200 naira or something or 300, and you get your cash and move on. So the proliferation of the POS activities, which is not necessarily illegal anyway, I think has provided a major competition for cash with the banks, so that all the cash that normally should go to the banks are now going to POS, because the POS people, they pay for the cash. They buy the cash practically. Whereas in the banks, in fact, there was a time a levy is even imposed on you for depositing cash, although that has been stepped down for now. So we need to look at the totality of factors that may be responsible for this.
Yes.
It's also possible that
but let me ask further. Let me quickly ask further whether, yes, it is convenient, these options that we now see, but is it healthy? And most importantly, how sustainable is this?
I mean, there's nothing unhealthy about it. The POS people, they are doing something that is legitimate. They are providing a service, you know. I mean, for some people, the bank branches may be, you know, several kilometers away. And in these days of high cost of transportation, rather than think of taking Okada or taking Marua, which will also cost you maybe another 200 or 300 naira, or even 500 naira to and fro, you rather look for the POS that is closest to you. You get your cash and you move on with your life. I think what can happen is that perhaps because of this development, we may need to increase the amount of cash available in the economy. Because the amount of cash has not changed drastically. But the behavior of citizens, I think, is what has changed. That is why it's also possible that there are possibilities of money laundering activities. You know, because when it comes to money laundering, it happens a lot with cash. I'm talking of corruption-related transactions. People either use dollar or they use the naira cash. That is also a possibility. Then we have the issue of financial inclusion. You know, financial inclusion is still not at the level at which we wish it could be. But again, I must say that the experience people have with online transactions can also have a negative impact on financial inclusion, a negative impact on whether you embrace online transactions or not. But the only way this can change is perhaps first, if we properly restore the confidence of people in the cashless platforms, I'm talking of electronic platforms, or the central bank decides to increase the amount of money that it has printed as cash.
Well,
right now, what we have now is just about 4 trillion naira cash in circulation.
Right, this issue is actually multifaceted because some actually believe that CBN's naira redesign and subsequent cash withdrawal limits contribute to the current cash, scarcity. So, was that an unforeseen consequences, or did that reflect a deeper or a broader, infrastructural issue or structural inefficiencies in Nigeria's financial system? How do you see it?
No, it's not a structural inefficiency. We have long, got over the issue of the naira redesign. That was under the former regime of the Central Bank of Nigeria. At that time, there was a lot of mopping up of cash, to the point that the total amount of cash dropped to around 1 trillion or 2 trillion. But now the total amount of cash has gone back to 4 trillion. So it's not a naira redesign issue. The amount of cash has been steady. It is the behavior of the citizens that have changed, which has led to this cash. And just as I read out, there are quite a number of possibilities that may have been responsible for this. And the way to deal with this, because the banks cannot give what they don't have, actually. Because if people are not coming forward to deposit the cash in the bank, what can the banks do? Because I heard the CBN say that people should report and all of that. You can only give what you have. A lot of cash are not going back into the banking system because of the factor that I've mentioned. So unless we increase the amount of cash available, perhaps this problem may persist. And unless we get more people to embrace the cashless platforms, the electronic platforms.
But in talking about the cashless,
the amount of downtime that we have.
Right. Sorry to jump in your line of thought, but in talking about the cashless, system, if you look at the fintech, they're actually coming in to bridge this gap, and some Nigerians are actually buying into it. But you still find some other people would say, no, I can't use it because of the facility they have in their palms, the kind of phones that they use to make these transactions. They do not have the facility. But do you feel that Nigerians do not necessarily have the adequate information about going cashless as against having to carry cash up and down?
No. Nigerians have embraced cashless significantly. I mean, you'll be amazed the number of people that now have bank accounts that give you their bank and that use POS all over the place. Even the average people that sell on the roadside, practically everybody now have bank accounts. Practically everybody now carry ATM cards. We have made a lot of progress as far as electronic payment is concerned. You need to look at the data. It has improved significantly. And there is also some standard measures when you compare currency in circulation to GDP. Nigeria has one of the lowest, which shows that we have made a lot of progress in terms of the cashless transaction. But when the platform begins to fail, then confidence in those systems begins to be undermined. And a lot more people will now step back and go back to the use of cash. That is the only thing that I reason may have been responsible for this. Other reasons I've mentioned, it could be money laundering activities, it could be issue of, the rural economy, the informal sector, but a whole lot has to do with confidence in the online transactions.
Okay, so that on one hand, and then you are also making a case for, you're even simplifying the situation on the other hand, saying perhaps CBN should also produce more cash. But what is stopping it? Because that seems very simple, like I said, but what's stopping the CBN from doing that while it is now saying banks should produce, should make sure that there is enough cash for its customers? And then again, how much of coordination, are you seeing on the part of CBN in all of this? Are they in control?
Of course, CBN is in control, but the variables I've mentioned, the CBN is not so much in control. Because if people choose that because of their experience, they don't want to go cashless anymore, they don't want to, use online platforms again, that is not within the control of the CBN. It's a confidence issue. You have to build that confidence for people to return. Because quite frankly, the experience that people had in the last 2 months or so was extremely very bad. Some of them left the traditional banks, some of them migrated to the fintechs, which electronically or technology-wise, a lot of people feel they are doing very well. But some people just decided to just stay with cash. So it's a question of returning the confidence, and it's a responsibility primarily of the banks to ensure that they don't have these frequent downtimes that they have with their apps and with their online platforms. For me, that is important, because the bulk of the people that use the cash are the ordinary people, the informal sector people, the rural economy. Those are the people that use a lot of cash. So we need to address the issue of confidence and also address the issue of the adequacy. If the confidence does not change in time, the only way to bridge the deficit we are dealing with is to supply more cash. And that can only be done by the central bank. That's
right. But so with the rising interest in central bank digital currencies, there's the CBDC. Nigeria's e-Naira introduction had faced, both criticism and maybe less adoption. I do not know where you stand on this. Do you feel that there is need to do more by the CBN to further make sure that Nigerians adopt this in order to tackle, scarcity of funds or cash, I should put it?
No. The e-Naira thing, I don't think it was even necessary in the form. I don't think it has it, because we are already doing a whole lot. The banks are already doing a whole lot as far as the use to online or electronic transactions. And we already on board. Look at the impact that they have brought into this ecosystem of payment systems into the table. In fact, for me, it has largely been a major failure and a waste of resources. It is the banks that have the responsibility to ensure that they have the technology to deliver seamless online transactions. It is the experience that will drive the inclusion. It is the experience that will make a lot more people drop cash and move to their platforms. And I must say that we have made a lot of progress. In many places now, you go, people, not many people actually use cash, except for the experience that people had in the last few months about all these glitches in some of the banks. I think that is what is responsible largely for this. In competition with the banks, it's also a major factor because they provide a lot of convenience, you know. So they are competing with the banks for cash. But the cash are not going back to the banks as they used to. I mean, go to some of these banks, unlike what you have in those days where people be loading a lot of cash to the banks to deposit. Most of these cash now are just filtering into all these POS guys.
What are the implications of this development? More so when you compare the Nigerian situation with what happens in other climes. How unprecedented is this? The issue that banks are now the ones struggling to have as much cash as they should. What's the biggest implication of this?
No, the implication is that these things may affect, first is affecting, you know, the cost of the cash, because now if you patronize the POS, it's costing you more anyway, which is also not a particularly good thing. You should not be paying for cash of your own local currency. So that is why I was talking.
Dr. Yusuf.
This pressure will dissipate. That is one. Secondly,
all right, Dr. Yusuf, kindly backtrack a bit. We lost some of what you said in answer to the question of, you know, the implications of people not being able to withdraw their own money, cash, from the banks.
No, the point I'm making is that it increases cost to people, because when you don't have the money in the bank, the cash in the bank, the other alternative is for you to go to the POS channels, which is more expensive. I'm saying that this additional cost should not arise. Indeed. Because you cannot be doing so much cost to, you know, get cash for you to do your transaction. So it's increasing the cost of the payment system to the consumers or to the users. That's a negative impact. Then secondly, it's also affecting the payment system generally, because cash is an instrument for payment. So if you don't have enough cash to do your transaction, it negatively affects the economy. It can you know, slow down the pace of and the velocity of business transactions, especially at the informal sector level or at the rural economy level. Mm. But ultimately, it increases the cost of cash, which is not a normal thing. Mm. So we have to address it in a way that we reduce, you know, this challenge of scarcity. Either, particularly the low-hanging fruit for me is to make more cash available in the system and ensure that we increase the level of confidence to make a lot more people go back into the electronic payment platforms.
Right. So very quickly, because of our time, you know, we are advocating transitioning to cashless society, as against, you know, having to move about with cash. But if you look at UK, back in the day, before the pandemic, they were, you know, already adopting digital currency. I mean, going cashless in their society. But now, recent reports have it that the UK, there's a surprise jump in number of UK people mainly using cash for daily spending. So do you think this is a global phenomenon, that it's very difficult for people to just switch to cashless society, as we've seen in countries like maybe China, Japan, etc.?
No, not at all. This is not anything global. This is a local problem. And let me tell you, if you look at the data, just as I said earlier, you compare the currency in circulation to your GDP. Our own currency in circulation to GDP is just about 2%. We are one of the lowest, which indicates that we have made a lot of progress even in the use of in this cashless transaction, a whole lot of progress. We are doing better than many of the advanced economies, surprisingly. You know, so it's not an issue. It's a question of fixing what may have been responsible for this. I mean, this has not always been the issue.
Right.
After the Naira redesign crisis, we have recovered from that. But this is a recent development.
All right.
So we need to trace what has happened to this and make sure that we bring normalcy to the whole place.
All right.
And I believe it's a question of confidence, really.
Oh, all right. We thank you very much, Dr. Moda Yusuf, for your contributions on TVC Breakfast. We appreciate